Hey, everybody, and welcome to Boss Talks. We have a great show for you today, episode 137 with James Ohrn. He is out of, my market, Seattle. Great to have him. He's with uh, Avenue5 Residential and is the area maintenance manager with them. But to me, that title almost simplifies his role too much because he's over a lot of stuff. I feel like he should have, I don't know, state of Washington. I don't even think it's the whole state of Washington, but it's a lot of properties. I think 35 in total, 6,000 units. He's covering a lot of ground. So kudos to him. And I think 100 maintenance professionals are under him as well. That's a lot. That's a lot. So good job, James, for holding it down here in Seattle. And he's a great guy. He is well respected here in our association as well. Does a lot with WUMFA, and so it's always been fun to be around him and be at different events and see him. So super excited to have him on the show today. Before we get there, though, I am Evan Happel. I'm with Community Boss, and we have a great solution for you when it comes to managing your physical spaces, making it more fair for all involved. So if you have any needs when it comes to your parking or amenities, maybe a mapping solution to really showcase everything, or you want to make some money on everything, we got some great solutions in Parking Boss, Amenity Boss, and Welcome Boss. So if you want to learn more, reach out to me and we'll make it happen. But today, it's about James, and we got something special to get James going. So everybody, throwback to Bone Thugs. For the love of money. Gotta make that money, man. Money, baby, still the same now. Gotta make that money, man. Money, baby, still the same now.
That's a nice intro.
Gotta get on the grind, pop the clip in my nine, bitch, you can slip it, get chalk it, fall in the night time, gotta get mine. Ain't taking the shirts of the loss, it's top of the.
All right, James. So doing something new, intro, your walk-up music. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Evan. It's a wonderful experience to be with you, and I know how well respected you are, so it's fun to be able to get on here and chop it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think the music is actually spot on, perfect to intro you with, because I usually ask that question later, so I'm shifting things. Music wise, what is your go-to music? Well, Bone Thugs, I don't think most people, when they meet you, they would be like, this guy is all about rap or like gangster rap or anything like that. But you actually grew up, that was your music and still is. So where'd you grow up and why'd you choose that music?
Yeah, I grew up in Gary, Indiana. I was born in West Chicago, Illinois. Moved to Gary when I was about 6 or 7, and the music is influenced by the culture from that area. I'm really into sports and hip hop crossover a lot, so that really resonated with me coming up and the people I was around.
All right. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. And now I know. Had no idea that you were mentioning you wanted to add some Kendrick, and I was like, I got so much Kendrick on my list already. He's really popping all over the place when it comes to that's what people are listening to. So,
if you want to switch it up, go back to some Midwest choppers, some
that's right.
Some Twista, some Bone Thugs and Harmony. If you want to get a little bit weird with it, maybe some Tech Nine. That's not my flavor, but it's still the same genre. So
yeah. No, thanks for adding that, and thanks for sharing a little bit about that.
Absolutely.
All right. So next question I'll ask then is, similar. I always ask the music question to be about like what motivates you, what do you maybe listen to like when you're going to go work out and things like that. Next question would be about caffeinated beverage of choice. So what are you on the daily, your go-to beverage for maybe also giving you that extra bump?
It's coffee. It's coffee
Right.
for me. Been dabbling in the cold brew recently with the heat coming on, which is so refreshing. I love me an iced coffee. But wake up, brew a pot every morning, supply myself with the coffee, put it in a mason jar. If anybody knows me, I'm quirky like that, and then I'm loaded for the day.
Nice.
Yeah.
So just straight black?
No, I do like a soy silk creamer,
Okay.
vanilla, but I'll rock with some black coffee. Nothing like a straight espresso shot or something like that here and there.
Yeah.
Start the day, hit it before the workout. Yeah, absolutely. I back to your question about music getting me hyped. Recently in life, I find myself not listening to anything besides my thoughts.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, when I was younger, I was the token kid at the stoplight with the 212s in the back, and you thought my license plate was gonna fall off. But nowadays, I find myself riding around in silence and clearing my thoughts and trying to navigate the things that I need to, so I could better serve people when I get to where I am.
No, that's great. I'm not, and funny enough, I'm not like a big music person.
Oh
I
wow,
enjoy music.
yeah,
I'm asking the question kind of twofold to expand my horizons, and also I think it does say a lot about the people that I have on the show, kind of learning about different people and their interests and stuff. But yeah, it's definitely opening up a whole bunch of different worlds, I guess, because each person has their own flavor of music and kind of a story behind it. So yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah, I mean, and that kind of goes in line with kind of the topics that you even brought forth in passions of yours that we'll get to about philosophy and holistic living and stuff like that. It definitely sounds like that's a big part of who you are. So that's yeah, that'll be good once we get there. All right, one last question, and this has to do with more in your realm of property management. Uh, has to do with parking. So, do you have any stories or maybe things that you've implemented when it comes to parking that you want to share with people? And it can be something funny that you've experienced regarding parking lot or parking situations in communities.
Uh, off the top of my head, the number one thing that sticks out when it comes to parking with my role is security.
Mm,
Um, obviously it's supposed to be a revenue stream, and we want that offering so that people have the resident experience. They're paying a lot to be where they are. Ownership groups usually tie a large amount of money to each parking spot. So as we do new developments and trying to figure out where the shop will be, we try and mitigate losing those spaces so that that income is there. I think last time I was talking about it, a single parking spot for a building over its lifespan could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars.
yeah,
And with that, from the client perspective, our perspective, and the resident perspective, we want to make sure it's as safe as possible.
right.
But the city has crafty people, and everyone knows how to get in. I personally have experienced this. I was on site one time, and I went to leave. Property manager called me back in because they needed something real quick. So I just threw my tools on my back seat real fast, ran inside, 15 minutes, come back out. Someone had ripped open my rooftop to try and steal my tools. And that's something that every time I get a concern brought forward by a teammate or a resident, it really, I have this scar that stays with me, and I have empathy for them in that space. So trying to make sure things are as safe as possible when it comes to people's items. And I mean, their mode of living is typically tied to their transportation.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And a lot of that goes down a whole rabbit hole of why we've partnered with a few different companies, like with cameras and stuff, because there's a lot to that. And a lot of people that are up to no good are in a car of their own, and maybe they already have a record. So sometimes they can get flagged just because of that, and it can help. But yeah, you're right. It's a big deal.
Is that an offering that y'all have? You guys bring in security companies, potentially like Overwatch type things?
Sort of, yeah. So we're integrated with a company. They're called Flock. I don't know if you heard of them, but they set up cameras at different parts of the community. So if you have an entrance, set up a camera, and their whole thing is to call the cops if they're a bad guy.
Yeah, and we need that because, like I said, they're crafty. They'll show up early, case the place, come back fully covered with their tool bags that they've designated they need to get in. That battery powered, diamond plated angle grinder is the all entry key that everyone's looking for. And
wow.
I mean, the RFID copiers. I think we had an Audi R8 driven out of a property one time as people were trying to case it. Lots of things like that. So partnering with someone like that to make people feel more comfortable is a big deal for us in the city, for sure.
Yeah, and then it marries up with ours. So then you have who's supposed to be there. Yeah, and then it's like built-in enforcement. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, it's great. Yeah. Well, we'll have to talk about that if it is an issue. But yeah, thanks for sharing about that and your 2 cents about parking. Appreciate it. All right. Well, James, you did come from the Midwest. You made your way out here to Seattle, Washington. Eventually got into, I don't know, did you get into property management stuff before getting here, or is this where you landed once you got to Seattle?
It's something that I landed on once I got to Seattle.
Okay. So so what's your story in getting into this world of multifamily?
Yeah. So moved here after I graduated college, 2009, came here 2010, and was running a private training business out of an apartment complex that I lived at. And they had a maintenance tech position open up. I didn't have insurance. They offered me, a base pay and a rent discount on the apartment that I was already in, and offered to give me keys to the property so I could train whenever I wanted. It fit perfectly into my training schedule because I trained morning, midday, and afternoon. So I inserted the maintenance tech role thinking, worst thing I can do is get a rent discount and start to learn a ton of stuff that'll be valuable for me moving forward in life. And it's worked out. I fell in love with the constant growth. And I've always really enjoyed people's perspectives. So being able to see all types of cultures, all types of people, see how they live, see how they navigate relationships and stuff like that, you can learn a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and then go ahead.
Oh, so you got into it about 2010 when you moved here, and share a little bit, like you kind of still are in the coaching, training, like when it comes to fitness and all that kind of stuff. That's always been a big part of your life. And is that what you actually studied in school, is kind of like that, things around that?
Yeah, sport performance. I started off in the athletic training mode. So that was where I was going. It was highly competitive where I was, and I didn't get accepted into that. So I switched over to exercise science. And then I had walked on to the football team at Indiana State University. And then I still wanted to play, but I wanted to be around sports and stuff. So I ended up getting a small school scholarship, and they didn't have exercise science in their curriculum. So I went into sport performance and ended up with it's a business degree with a minor in physical education. So, I went from, anatomy, kinesiology, biomechanics, coaching, teaching, and then coupled that with, business management all the way up to 400 level classes, accounting, economics, government, all of those type of pieces that kind of helped, philosophy, psychology, everything to like round out hopefully what would be a holistic understanding of how to set it up and run a business as well, and then the people side on the back end, which ends up being the most important for me.
Yeah. So that's where you were hoping and thought, this would be where you spend all your time. Then you got into multifamily and it became something, oh, I actually like this. But the fitness aspect hasn't left you. It's still something that you're very passionate about. You're still involved in sports and coaching. So what are you doing in that right now? And also, tied to that, what do you pull from that side of your life that kind of drives you in even multifamily?
Yeah, I guess going back to the reason why I've stayed in this industry is more related to leadership around an event that happened in our family's life. We tragically lost my sister in an apartment fire, and I had an into the industry. I had a perspective of the on-site teammates, and I saw a vision of being able to bring some of the training and leadership from my courses and what I love to do, and saw a pathway to bring that leadership into our industry. So with that, the training and leadership, you really have to invest in the individual, have a vision of what their goals are, what their motivations are, what brings them to work, where they want to go. And that's the same as any personal training or strength coaching for teams. You build a vision, you create the mission, you implement modalities, and you track performance, and then you try and positively impact people to get to where they will be happiest. So we are in business, but our business is people, whether that's clients, the teammates, or the residents. And you can apply all of those leadership tactics and the modalities of physical training into the training of, I would say any industry, but it fits really well with us. On the maintenance side, being physical and mental. So training skills with your hands, but also training skills with your mind, and then coupling those together to see success.
Yeah. No, makes a lot of sense. And being able to bring that in and just, I don't know. I think your approach is cool. You also are big into philosophy and things like that. Like the fact that you really care about people as well, and you're tying that all in to the people that you actually oversee, and them actually knowing that they matter in the work they're doing. I know that matters to you. So,
homes are very personal.
Yeah, for sure.
And garden styles, mid-rises, they're, garden style is kind of like a neighborhood, but I look at mid-rises and high-rises as vertical neighborhoods, communities with the opportunity to set a tone so that people can really enjoy their life. And if you put a investment into the teammates that are there to create that experience, then hopefully the residents are better off because of it, and then the clients get what they wanted out of it as well.
Yeah. And let's be honest, like maintenance, I think we all know, not only is it hard to find and keep good people in maintenance, I know that's always a challenge. So like investing in them and developing them is super important so that they feel like they want to stay there. But the fact of the matter is, if you don't keep the good people and have that strong team, you really aren't going to have happy residents. Like maintenance is, once they're there, the maintenance probably are the most important.
That resonates with us on the maintenance side for sure. operations and maintenance have to work together. There has to be synergy across the team.
Yeah.
They are the sales aspect, and collection of funds. We are a business, and that bottom line is dollar signs when it
Yep.
comes to business. But yeah, once that ink is dry, or that digital signature is on there, they take possession of that home. The resident retention comes from the office leading, being able to answer those questions, and the maintenance teams being able to deliver the service that people are looking for.
Yeah.
You own a home. You're in a structure that you created at your house,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of things that go into that, and
Yeah.
people sometimes choose to be in our homes at these properties because it mitigates the burden of that for them.
Right.
And typically they're looking for that service to be delivered, and that's our role.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's good that you approach things the way you do in helping people know that their role matters, and that you are also showcasing in a positive way, just like you're advancing yourself and like getting involved and being active as a person in a maintenance role, because you don't necessarily see that a whole lot. But you're modeling that for your people, which I think is really great. Like, you're involved in WUMFA, you're involved within your company, and you're showing the people below you that, hey, this is a job that you can care about and that can take you places. You just have to actually like take steps and put yourself out there and all that. So it's cool that you're doing that as a model.
Yeah, I mean, the fun part about what we do is we get to learn every day, whether it's a resident's dog's name, or the way that they like us to enter their apartment, and the connection points that we have, especially as maintenance teammates, being in the hallways, asking how people are, being in their homes, making it safe for them. Even if maintenance isn't your end goal, the amount of connections you can make inside of homes with people who potentially have other opportunities for you, it's endless. I tell the teammates, every interaction is an interview, and you never know what's going to come out of it.
Yeah.
That's a heavy burden to wear. But if you look at it as an opportunity for growth at all times, then the sky is the limit. You could take yourself wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
But you got to show up. You got to show up, and you got to make the most of your opportunities.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's something I try to tell my kids, is like, so often people don't pay attention to how they're presenting themselves in public, whether it's at a job or whatever, or interacting with other people's parents, right? Like, just looking people in the eyes and asking how they're doing means so much to people, because nobody does it anymore.
You have to practice being human.
Yeah.
It's everybody's heart is hard, and we're all out here trying to find purpose. And if we can find some of that in our communities at work, and create that growth within ourselves, practice that eye contact, practice remembering someone's name, hearing it, repeating it, it becomes part of your person. Then the work that you're doing with those pieces becomes second nature. And then you bring it in to your personal life. How do you communicate with a resident that's disgruntled? How do you go home and help your partner navigate a sticky situation between y'all? Or how do you bring your kids up to see, the reason why you would do something like this? Not just for personal advantage, but I think leading that way, sets a foundation for communities to grow together and for everybody to be a little bit better.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Yeah, speak a little bit more on like just how you've gotten, and you took some classes in college and stuff, but has philosophy and holistic living always been like a big deal to you, or is it something over time that you've just really, like you said, you're tending to not listen to music. You're actually trying to just like process and kind of like run through what's going on in life more than not.
Yeah, it's a journey.
Yeah,
It's a practice. And philosophies look different to different people, whether that's religion or beliefs or communities or anything like that. Um, I can't. It's something I've always been interested in, but I don't know if I had the available space to dive into those thought processes. Um, you know, Sometimes you're not ready for the next step that you don't know you're not ready for. And I think about that a lot when it comes to mentality and being able to navigate complex thought processes that challenge us. We kind of chopped it up a little bit before the call
yeah,
started, before the stream started. And, you know, creating perspective can be difficult,
yeah,
especially if you're successful in a role that gives you the things that you need in life. Your basic needs are taken care of. Some of your wants are taken care of. What does it take for someone to step back and understand that the growth is always available? I've always had a lot of energy as a kid. Maybe the environments I was in didn't allow for a lot of uh, thought beyond survival, which is uh, something I see in a lot of people. Um, but you can't learn everything today. I got to give myself a little bit of grace as I continue to try and get better at all of these practices. But yeah, it really started, I think, with a world religions class in high school,
okay,
where Mr. Clora gave us the foundation for all thought and religion, and how they kind of align with each other with the vision of the betterment of humanity. And I don't think anyone had ever told me that. And then moving into college and getting into classic philosophy, and then going into the Eastern philosophies, and just understanding, how growth can come from just a question, or stepping back and seeing someone else's perspective. It can be overwhelming how endless information can be. How as you learn more, you realize how little you know, versus being that 15-year-old telling your parent, oh, you don't know nothing, right? Oh, I know everything, I've done this one time, right? Type stuff. And yeah, and that growth, it can be a little bit embarrassing to look back on for us. But yeah, I think as I grow, I evolve, I have great relationships, bad relationships with people. I try and take something to better myself with in each of those interactions. And that's something, I wish I would have had earlier in life, but I'm glad that I've had the people who have planted those seeds in me and allowed it to grow.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's interesting how a class in high school and just these things all build, right? Like we kind of were talking earlier about life's a journey. Like we're born, we have this time, and you even said like morbid or not, you're born and then you basically have a death sentence in the
Yeah.
sense
Birth
we're
is a
not
death
gonna live.
sentence of some
We're
sort.
not gonna live forever. Like
Yeah.
you know, so what are we gonna do with the time we have? You know,
Exactly. And you know, I think there there are places where people don't have to challenge themselves in that way, and and they have a defined route in life, and they're able to follow that, and they have a beautiful life that way too. But yeah, I think being able to compound your experiences and, just continue to try and be a little bit better every day, can really show over time. It's those bite-sized chunks. It's the concept of Kaizen in the Japanese culture, which is small steps every day create big impact over time. And you never know how you can help change somebody by just showing up and being open, leading with kindness and compassion, being a hammer when you have to with the people who have the emotional ability to take that, the learning process. But yeah, I mean, think about where you were when you were young. I'm sure you correlate some of your experiences to what your children go through with you, and it's something every single day, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, every with your kids, with even taking trips, like taking a trip to Long Beach, you get opened up to people you don't see every day. Obviously, everybody's on vacation, whatever, and like, oh, this is a different group. This that I'm not around all the time.
And they live good lives. They have joy. That joy might not align with your joy, but it's fun to see people, happy, and try and understand what gets them there and try and add that to your game.
Yeah.
I think it becomes like almost like living life on hard mode if you think about it from like a video game perspective, but also the practice, if you implement it over time, it becomes second nature.
Yeah. Yeah, but you got to keep moving forward and view it as like, what can I learn from all these different interactions? Because life it's always hard. Like,
there's 8 billion people in the world. We're all unique in our own perspective. No one will ever see through your eyes. They could never understand the culmination of your experiences and how you navigate life with those experiences. How your experiences create your thought and how you see life through those thoughts. And I think the understanding that you don't know what you don't know, and being able to open up yourself to be uncomfortable, to feel joy or frustration or whatever that is, leads to maybe places that people don't think they ever would have gone or didn't know they were capable of.
Yeah. So, I mean, you seem to be very much yourself all the time. Like, you're not like a different person in different spaces, in the sense, if you understand what I mean, which is good. So when it comes to like the people that work for you and under you, when you bring this energy of like things like philosophy and things like that, how is it received? Is it are some people like surprised by it, or what would you say is the way people navigate that? Because you're working with a lot of people in your space.
Teaches me a lot.
Yeah.
I think, going back to your first point, I try and be as genuinely myself as I can all the time. Obviously, there's always a little bit of code switching that goes on.
Yeah.
Whether that's the difference between interacting with a client or interacting with a teammate that you're trying to connect with, or just navigating potentially a tough situation on the block, or being in traffic and trying to tamp down your emotions for that person that has had their blinker on for 3 miles and never got over, even though you gave them space, right? There's a lot that goes on. And then, I think going into each property, each interaction with each individual, understanding the tone, the presentation, maybe the slang, the jargon that fits them, and all of that is, I like to say, building a player profile.
Yeah.
In my mind, I have a breakdown of, you know, what might be the core beliefs of somebody or what they have shown me. You know, a background of where they come from, you know, what struggles they've shared with me, what their perception on their current role is and their previous roles, or where they want to go, you know, where their property is situated, what their resident demographic is, what their client is, what their teammates are, how their leadership acts, trying to take all of that in. And then when I have that opportunity to connect with them one-on-one, using those understandings to help bridge the gap between us, and then see as much of their perspective as I can without being them, helps me connect. And once we connect, then there's potential buy-in. I'm not going to force my thought process on anyone,
Yeah.
because that's not the way things are. You could see someone that you know needs help in any variety of ways, and you could give them the recipe. You could give them the solution for getting to, you know, what they say they want. But if they haven't done the work up front to be open or have the available understanding of themselves to make change, then it comes down to, you know, showing up as your best self, you know, leading by example, and then planting seeds of understanding, and then, you know, allowing them to grow at their own pace. I had a conversation with a supervisor who's also in the emerging leaders cohort. He came on, kind of jumped under my wing, had an interesting perspective on life that was different than mine. He came from a different place, but he's also from the Midwest, so we got that Midwest bias off top. And speaking to him last week, and him saying, you know, the leadership that I give is, you know, the foundation that it's built on is me showing up and being my best self every day. The understanding that, you know, I wake up and make myself breakfast, so I'm fueled. You know, I try and get a healthy amount of sleep so that I have the mental capacity to take on the amount of interactions, the effort that it takes to be that person when you show up. He was saying how it might not necessarily have been what he thought he needed in life, but as we grow together, he has seen it as an opportunity for him to fine-tune his mode, so that when he does get into situations, he's got the tools to navigate them. And that's what I hope for everybody. Like I said, I'm not going to force anything on anyone.
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody in this industry kind of falls into it. For the most part, there's some legacy people whose parents were in it. You know, there's some people who have connections from parents that got them into the industry, and they've grown and really liked it and been very successful with it. But the majority of maintenance people that you'll see, you know, they like drumming, or they like rock climbing, or they like riding motorcycles. They wish they could be a mechanic or an HVAC tech or something like that. And, you know, in understanding that there's always something extra, but this is like their means, and then trying to create passion within it so that they can get out of it what they want is I think the best way to help people buy in.
Yeah.
If they want to.
Right. It's true. I mean, once you get into something, I think it's important for people to as quick as they can come to realize whether they like it or not. And if it ain't for you, find the thing that is, you know?
I tell teammates, if you show up today and you know you never want to do this again in your life, let's make a plan. What do you like? For now, we want you to show up and take care of your responsibilities, because that is what you signed up for. But that doesn't mean that you and I can't have a one-on-one where we create a vision of success for you in a different path that might make you happier. And
right.
And with that, you know,
and that could even mean within this industry. It doesn't necessarily mean they got to leave it. It could be that, you know,
a supplier.
this
career
specific thing,
development person, right?
yeah,
Construction management. We
right.
touch so many lanes in our industry that there's so much opportunity. A gentleman that used to work with us, Chris Skogland, that's my guy. He was at a couple properties. He went over to the supplier side, and I just saw that he became a regional facilities director or director of facilities for a local company, and it's something that he's wanted forever. He put his name in the hat for the regional position that I got, and then the one after us. And I believe in him that he could have done these roles. It just wasn't the right time. And now his progression, it's not linear like you would have thought it would be, like the career maps that we have at our company, but he's finding success by making his own way. And I think that's a beautiful experience, and a good example of what you can do. I mean, how many people on the supplier side do you know that used to be property managers?
There's quite a few. It's growing, I
Yeah,
think, and I think it benefits them. Especially like if they're in sales or something, it's like you can resonate with the person you're selling to. You know what they go through on a day-to-day basis, and you can speak their language, and it's helpful.
absolutely.
There's nuance to everything. So if you have an idea and you walked in the shoes of the person you're trying to sell that thing to, it's like it's more genuine, first of all, and it's like you can speak to their pain points and all the things that they need help with.
Create the why.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's definitely helpful. I think it's growing. I think people are starting to realize, oh yeah, I mean, there's so many suppliers. I'm in tech now. I used to not be in tech. I used to be in like doing events for a community. So there's in-person stuff. There's suppliers that obviously are, coming directly to a property and laying floor or fixing things, So there's lots of different opportunities. So
Yeah,
it's all serving the same thing.
exactly.
Yeah. So it's a it's not it doesn't always feel like a big industry, right? But it's like if you look at the greater parts of it with the suppliers also, it only gets bigger. And
It's a big umbrella. There's a
yeah,
lot of lanes to this highway.
yeah, for sure. Yep. Yep. Yeah. And it's not even just sales. Like there's so many other opportunities even within the company I work for that aren't that, like dealing just with customers and things like that. So yeah, there's definitely other things people can do. So I think it's great that you approach it like, hey, what do you actually like? Like, what do you want to do? Is it here? Is it somewhere else? Because sometimes people don't even they don't yet know to think like that. They just think I need a job,
Yep.
But as much as we might think, oh, you just got to take it by the horns by yourself, and that is true for some people. It sounds like you're that way, and there are people that way, right? But some people, they need a little push to realize they can do that.
Harkening back to you don't know what you don't know, and
Right.
then the reality of that, nobody does it alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only person that's going to show up for you every single day is the person in the mirror. You take care of that first, not in necessarily a selfish way, but more in a way to make yourself the best version of yourself, so that you can feel, confident and proud of that as you bring it to other people. But it's the communities that we're a part of. It's the connections that we have. Doffer Ibadi, one of the supervisors I've worked with for a long time. I've said this 1,000 times, but he told it to me one time. Your network, your network is your net worth. And going back to you walk into a unit, you fix an HVAC, header for a person who lives there. They own an HVAC company. Boom, you got a job. Who knows? Who knows what that is, right? And you might love it. You might not. You got to be willing to take, calculated risks, advance yourself a little bit every day, and lean on the people that got your back.
Yeah. That's right. Well, I know your space is very diverse. Maintenance side tends to be probably even more so than the leasing side of things when it comes to people from all over the world.
Yeah.
And all the different languages. Like I've experienced a lot of different maintenance people through different events and stuff, and it's usually tends to be the more diverse side of the business. Um, and you like to travel quite a bit, so I imagine that travel and even being at work, like being around different cultures and things like that, can be helpful, being that you do love to travel. And so what is it about travel, maybe that you love, and how that even helps you in your job?
It's all perspective, you know. Um, Once again, knowing everyone knows something that I don't. Um, allowing myself to learn from each of these cultures, the way that they navigate stuff, uh, the food that they eat, the way they connect with their families, the way they build their road systems, what kind of greenery do they have around, whatever it is, trying to broaden my perspective to bring it all in to be able to connect with the people that I have the opportunity to serve is a big deal. And I learn a lot of that at work. um, One of my teammates, Aiden Edraki, he's from the Middle East. He came here when he was 18 and has made an extremely successful career. I mean, he's well known. He's great at what he does, and just being able to sit down and see how he navigates stuff different than I do. My other teammate, Kevin Hansen, he's from Alaska. Never been there. That seems like a different country. Did brought in, and like even just in my inner circle, I see Claudia Zeman in the comments over here. Who knows that she's from London, right? You grow up internationally, you come here, like it's a different perspective, and being able to pop around a little bit with the opportunities that I've had to go to different countries, it's just adding to hopefully, being the best version of myself. And I think I guess a big one is respect that, everybody navigates things the way that they do, and they are successful in the way that they do. And, sometimes we step back and we're like, how does this person survive when they can't even tie their shoes, but highly successful in this position, and they're doing a great job? And it's, some people approach that with frustration or ego, and that's understandable, but being able to tamp that down and create the respect for everybody's navigation of their experiences is the way that I try and bring it all in.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I wish that we invested in our public transit the way that more like Japan, or
Right.
Maybe even London has a great transit system. Like different countries, I think we could progress a little bit here with being, one of the richest nations in the world, on being able to create more interconnectedness between people, which would help our communities grow together. And I think that respect and that interconnectedness creates, progress that I think most people are hopeful for.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big tension. The United States is so about being individual, and that's pretty different than a lot of other countries, Um, obviously we all started out as very tribal, right? Like that was like everybody at one point.
Yeah.
But in the United States, it's like we don't want to have really tight knit groups. Some people do. Obviously, it's here and there, but so often we're like, no, I'm an individual.
Yeah. And there's something to be said about the beauty in one's identity, but having an identity and being proud of your culture is one thing, but diminishing someone else's because of what you believe is something that I think is an easy way to create that separation. And maybe build a little bit of a higher sense of self-worth, but I don't think that's um, good in the long run for the
Yeah.
for the person or the community. Humans are pack animals. That's what we do. We long for community. We long for connection. And it's interesting to think about in America, we all want, you hit 18, you're out the house, where most cultures, you pool your money so that everybody has enough. There can be an abundance, but we're taught it's your responsibility to co-create your own abundance.
Right.
We're driving individually in our cars, which is like a bubble of ourselves. We go to our home, which is isolated. That's a bubble of ourselves. It's real easy to get, caught in your thought processes and not want to open yourself up to perspective. One thing, it's scary, but the other thing is your way works. So how do you break out of it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I watch people's eyes go cross-eyed when I'm like, maybe take a bus one time just to create perspective, right? When's the last time you were on a bus?
Right.
I mean, hop on the link to go to a Mariners game, and you'll see people of every single background coming together for the same community event, and everybody's about that life. But then when you disperse, you're back to your individual self, and there's a longing for that connection. So I think what we do, especially with our impact on these vertical neighborhoods, we have a lot of, opportunity to see and, create community.
And a lot of diversity in those apartment communities. That's for sure.
Yeah.
People from all over the place and all different backgrounds, all different situations. So it's
Seattle, especially. We're an international hub.
Yep. It's for sure. Well, I wanted to end with the fact that you are in the Carrie Anderson Emerging Leader program. And I just wanted to hear from you and like, how's that going? What have you learned from it so far? And maybe plug it for other people.
I think it's an awesome cohort. Once going back to what we've been talking about, it's creating a community of leadership so that, we can bring talented individuals together, help coach them up so that as we progress year over year in this industry, everybody can be a little bit better. The vision of elevating yourself is typically tied to creating the means that allows you to provide for the lifestyle and the hobbies that you want to have outside of work. Specific to the Carrie Anderson Emerging Leaders cohort, these people have invested money and time and belief into what Jason and Trisha and Sloan and Hannah and the team over there are building. And they're putting a lot of effort into, guiding everybody, but not putting too many constraints on what that leadership and that teammate looks like. So it just becomes this collaborative space for everybody to, grow. And the community is strong. The teammates that I've gotten to work with, it was Christy Rolfe last year. Talk about someone with a wonderful story, full of struggle and also success. The roadblocks that she's hit and the experiences that she had, and then being able to jump into, something that didn't seem comfortable for her, and then understand how much talent she actually has, and just being able to have the courage to ask for more. She goes from a maintenance tech for 20 years to a multi-state supervisor within the same year, and she ends up winning the Maintenance Legends contest for us and goes to NAA in Philadelphia last year. Someone who had probably, barely ever left Washington in her life, and just bringing up perspective. I couldn't be more proud of her. and being someone in her corner, you know, and I wish I could do more. But I am just so proud of what she did. And then this year, you know, I have a gentleman named James Santiago, um, and he's ambitious and he's got an ego and he wants to prove it. And, you know, he knows how good he is and what his talents are and what he could do for people. And, you know, taking this big energy and all of this talent and trying to be able to focus it in a way that will get him to the position that makes him feel most proud of himself, and give him the lifestyle that he wants. Another wonderful opportunity to work with a spectacular individual, and happens to be both of them are from Thrive. So I'm getting to coach up the comp, but it's one industry, and you know, if we're all getting better together, then we all win. But yeah, that, you know, that's the personal story. Being able to get into those rooms and see the perspectives of the mentors and the people who are trying to elevate themselves. Yeah, like I said, it goes back to community. It goes back to everyone knows something that I don't, and just being able to take it all in. It's wonderful. I know Trisha dropped a hint down here for the emerging leaders on the maintenance side this year are also going to be helping project manage our Rebuilding Together event that's coming up July 25th from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. in Shoreline. It's a Friday. If you have a volunteer hour offered at your company, please think about signing up. Trisha put out an email, shameless plug for us to give back to our community and help make a safe place for people to live. But yeah, it all goes back to, you know, you said we're all individuals. You know, community is kind of hard to find as you grow older. You know, your relationships become more transactional because you are trying to get home to take care of your family and stuff. But they've done a great job of creating a space for growth, a community that people can feel uncomfortable and then comfortable in, and just it's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing your experience so far, and you've been at it for 2 years as a mentor, so that's awesome.
Yep.
And I'm sure, you know, like you said, you're learning from other mentors, you're learning from the mentees.
Yep.
You know, younger people have things to share too, you know. So
Yeah.
it's good to be reminded that they have every generation is experiencing things a little differently, right? So
yeah. People who have been in it for a while have solid ideas on what success looks like and how to get there, and younger people have innovative ideas on how to advance that process. And you know, we couple it all together, we're all winning.
Yep, absolutely. Well, James, thank you so much for being on today. Thanks for being my boss this week, and saying yes a few weeks back when we were able to see each other in person. You were actually at a board meeting for WUMPA, and that's where we got to connect. But yeah, it's been great talking to you today. And just like James jumped on, whether it's people that are in the Carrie Anderson program or people that are just passionate about something that they want to share with others, their way of leadership or whatever it is, you're able to be on Boss Talks. So he jumped on, so can you. So reach out. Let's make it happen. Let's tell your story. And till next week, when we actually have a mentee of the Carrie Anderson program, this has been Boss Talks. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.